The sun was just beginning to set, casting long shadows across the city streets. People hurried along, trying to finish their work, go home, or meet someone important. Among them was a young girl, tired from a long day at her small job. She had been working since early morning, cleaning houses and doing odd chores for people in the neighborhood. Her hands were rough, her feet sore, but she kept moving. There was a quiet determination in her eyes, a strength that had grown from years of struggle. Life had never been easy for her, but she had learned to survive and even hope for something better. Not far from where she walked, a man in an expensive suit stepped out of a shiny black car. He adjusted his cufflinks and looked around the street as if he owned the entire world. He was known in the city for his wealth, his sharp business skills, and, more than anything, his arrogance. People feared him, respected him, and sometimes admired him, but very few liked him. He believed that money gave him the right to control everything around him, and he rarely thought about the feelings of others. That evening, fate decided their paths would cross. The girl was carrying a small bag of groceries, balancing it carefully in her arms. She did not notice the man stepping onto the same sidewalk, distracted by his phone, reading messages and emails. In a split second, they collided. The groceries tumbled to the ground, cans rolling across the pavement, and the man's expensive shoes were splashed with water from a puddle nearby. The girl froze. She knew she had done nothing wrong. It had been an accident, nothing more. But the man's eyes narrowed. Anger flashed across his face. He looked at her as if she had committed a crime. "Watch where you're going," he snapped, his voice sharp and loud enough for nearby pedestrians to hear. The girl swallowed hard, trying to explain. "I am sorry, sir. It was an accident." "I didn't mean to," but he interrupted her with a wave of his hand. "Don't talk to me. You should pay more attention. Do you know who I am? Do you know what I pay for a day's work? Do you know what you've done? You've ruined my evening." He paused, looking around to make sure people were watching, and then added, "People like you should know their place. You don't belong on this street." Her heart sank. She had been humiliated in front of strangers. Some people nearby looked away, uncomfortable with his anger, but no one stepped in. The girl bent down to pick up the groceries, trying to stay calm, even though her hands trembled. Her face burned with shame, but she kept silent. She didn't have the power to fight back, and she knew that arguing would only make things worse. The man shook his head and muttered, "Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic." He turned and walked away, checking his phone again as if nothing had happened. The girl stood there for a moment, staring at the ground, taking deep breaths to calm herself. She wanted to cry, to scream, to shout at him for the cruelty in his words. But she couldn't. She had learned long ago that the world was not kind, especially to people like her. All she could do was pick up her scattered groceries and continue walking as she moved down the street. She felt a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. How could someone be so cruel? Did he even realize what he had done to her? She thought about her family, how hard they worked just to make ends meet, and how proud they were of her efforts. She tried to hold on to that thought, to remind herself that one man's arrogance could not define her worth, but the words still stung. They echoed in her mind with every step she took. Meanwhile, the man returned to his luxurious apartment, completely forgetting the encounter. To him, it had been a minor inconvenience, something that happened and was quickly forgotten. He poured himself a drink, leaned back in his leather chair, and continued scrolling through his phone. His mind was filled with business deals, investments, and strategies to make more money. He didn't think about the girl, the look in her eyes, or the silent tears she had fought to hold back. In his world, people like her were invisible. The girl, on the other hand, carried the incident with her. She thought about it late into the night as she prepared a simple dinner for her family. She did not speak of it, did not complain, but the memory lingered. She remembered the coldness in his voice, the way he looked down on her, and the unfairness of it all. It was a harsh reminder of the gap between her life and his, a gap that could not be bridged by effort or kindness alone. Despite the hurt, she did not let the incident break her spirit. She told herself that she would continue to work hard, to stay honest, and to remain kind even when the world seemed cruel. She understood that life would continue to challenge her, and that the people who caused pain were often too blinded by their own pride to see the consequences of their actions. Her determination grew stronger. She would not allow one man's arrogance to define her. The days that followed were a blur of work, routine, and quiet reflection. She continued to do her chores, help her family, and push through the fatigue that weighed on her every day. Every now and then she would think about the man in the expensive suit, wondering what kind of life made someone so careless with the feelings of others. She did not hope for revenge. She did not wish him harm. She only wished that one day he would understand the value of kindness and the impact of his words. In her small moments of solitude, she allowed herself to dream. She imagined a life where she could walk down any street without fear of being humiliated. She imagined being respected, being seen, and being treated as a human being rather than a nuisance. These dreams kept her moving forward, kept her smiling when the world tried to push her down. And though the memory of that evening would never fully leave her, it became a quiet reminder of her strength. She did not know that fate had not finished with them. That encounter, brief and painful as it was, would set the stage for events she could never have imagined. The arrogance of one man and the resilience of a poor girl were on a collision course, and neither would be the same once they met again. But for now, she focused on the present, on surviving, on living with dignity despite the cruelty of the world. She was small in the eyes of the rich and powerful, but in her heart she was mighty, and that inner strength, quiet and unyielding, would guide her through the challenges that were yet to come. The morning came slowly, with soft light spilling through the small windows of the modest apartment. The girl woke early, as she did every day, carrying the weight of responsibility on her young shoulders. Her family depended on her, and she had learned that the world did not pause for anyone's struggles. She quietly moved around, preparing breakfast with what little food was available, careful to make it stretch enough for everyone. Despite the hardships, she never complained. Her hands, rough from work, moved with practiced efficiency. She chopped vegetables, boiled water, and prepared a simple meal. While cooking, she thought about yesterday's incident, the man who had yelled at her in the street. It still lingered in her mind, but she refused to let it consume her day. She had learned to turn pain into focus, to use every negative experience as a reminder of why she needed to keep moving forward after breakfast. She stepped out to begin her daily chores. She cleaned houses, did laundry for neighbors, and ran errands. Each task was tiring, but she faced them with patience and determination. There were moments when her body ached, her hands were sore, and her feet ached from walking long distances, but she reminded herself that she was strong. Strength, she knew, came not from comfort, but from enduring hardships and continuing despite them. As she worked, she noticed small moments of beauty and kindness in the world around her. The old man who smiled when she handed him freshly washed clothes, the little children who waved at her in passing, the neighbors who nodded politely as she walked by. These small interactions reminded her that not everyone in the world was cruel. They gave her hope, even in the hardest of days. Despite her positive outlook, the memory of the arrogant man never fully left her mind. She thought about his eyes, cold and distant, and his words, sharp and biting. She wondered what had made him so harsh, so unaware of the impact of his actions. Was it power that blinded him? Was it wealth that made him forget compassion? She did not know, and she did not need to understand him. What mattered was her own path, her own growth, and her own resilience. During her work, she encountered another challenge. A neighbor's house had been left in disarray, and the girl had to move quickly to clean it before the owner returned. She worked tirelessly, scrubbing floors, dusting furniture, and organizing everything. Her body was exhausted, but she did not stop. She knew that each task completed meant a small victory, a step closer to providing a better life for her family. Each act of diligence was a testament to her character, her unwavering commitment to survive and thrive despite the odds. In the afternoon, she took a short break under the shade of a tree in the neighborhood park. She sat on the worn bench, sipping water from a bottle she carried. Children played nearby, their laughter filling the air, and she allowed herself a brief smile. She watched them with a mixture of nostalgia and longing, remembering a childhood filled with both joy and struggle. Life had taught her early that happiness was fleeting, but moments of peace, no matter how small, were treasures to be cherished. She thought about her dreams, the hopes that she rarely spoke aloud. She wanted stability, security, and a chance to live without constant fear of what the next day might bring. She wanted education, knowledge, and the ability to create opportunities not just for herself, but for her family. These dreams were private, held close to her heart, but they were powerful motivators. They reminded her that her current hardships were not permanent, that one day she could rise above them. Evening approached, and she returned home, tired but fulfilled. She prepared dinner, shared stories with her family, and offered words of encouragement, even when she herself felt weary. She understood the importance of maintaining hope, not just for herself, but for those who depended on her. Her family's smiles were small rewards for her relentless effort, reminders that her struggles were meaningful and impactful. Late at night, after everyone had gone to bed, she sat by the window. Looking out at the city lights, the world outside seemed vast and unreachable, yet she felt a quiet determination within her. She was aware of the divide between her life and those of people like the arrogant man from the street, yet she refused to be defeated by it. She knew that strength, character, and resilience were more valuable than wealth alone. She vowed that she would continue to work hard, to stay honest, and to remain kind. Even in a world that often rewarded arrogance and cruelty, she did not realize that her life was quietly intersecting with the world of the rich and powerful in ways she could not yet see. Every choice she made, every step she took, was building the foundation for the events that were soon to unfold. Her resilience, her integrity, and her unwavering spirit were quietly shaping her destiny, preparing her for the challenges and surprises that fate had in store. Through the long night, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. She remembered the man who had humiliated her, not with anger or bitterness, but with clarity. She understood that people like him were a part of life, obstacles to overcome, not defining forces. Her focus remained on her own journey, on the life she was building for herself and her family. She knew that one day the world would recognize her value, not because of wealth or status, but because of her strength, her courage, and her unwavering humanity. As she finally drifted to sleep, she felt a quiet sense of hope. The hardships of the day were real and heavy, but they did not break her. They strengthened her resolve, sharpened her focus, and deepened her understanding of the world. She was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead, unaware that soon her path would cross again with the arrogant man from the street. The meeting that would change both their lives was approaching, and she would face it with the same courage and dignity that had carried her through countless trials before. The days that followed felt ordinary. Yet quietly, life was preparing for something unexpected. The girl continued her routine, waking before dawn, carrying out chores, and supporting her family. She remained humble, resilient, and focused on survival. Her heart, though hurt by the arrogance she had faced, had not hardened. She believed that kindness and effort mattered more than wealth, and she carried that belief with quiet strength. One day, while delivering a bundle of freshly laundered clothes to a nearby office building, she saw the man from the street again. This time, he was not in a rush, not focused on a phone, but speaking with a group of people in the building's lobby. He looked confident, powerful, and completely unaware of her presence. She recognized him instantly, though he did not notice her. Her heart beat faster, a mixture of nervousness and curiosity. How would she handle this encounter? Would he remember her? Or would it be as if the previous incident had never happened? She continued her work without looking directly at him, her mind alert to every detail. She delivered the laundry, collected the payment, and thanked the office staff with her usual grace and professionalism. Inside, she felt a strange mix of emotions: anger at being treated unfairly before, caution because she did not know how he might react, and a quiet thrill at being in the same space as someone from a completely different world. She was aware of the social gap between them, yet she carried herself with dignity, refusing to feel small. As she exited the building, a sudden problem arose. The elevator broke down, and several packages had to be carried manually. She noticed that some of the employees were struggling to move heavy boxes. Without hesitation, she stepped in to help, using her strength and experience from years of hard work. Her movements were efficient, precise, and careful, showing the skills she had developed through everyday labor. People began to notice her competence, and murmurs of appreciation spread. The man, standing nearby, watched quietly at first. He was used to people around him being clumsy, inattentive, or subservient. But now he saw her handle tasks with ease, confidence, and intelligence. For the first time, he noticed her beyond the street incident. She was not weak or insignificant. She had skill, patience, and a quiet authority that he had never expected. His perception of her began to shift, though he was reluctant to admit it. After the work was done, she moved to leave, and their eyes met briefly. He recognized her, and this recognition hit him harder than he anticipated. There was a flicker of guilt in his expression, a realization of the harshness with which he had treated her. But pride and arrogance were still part of him, and he struggled to express any apology or understanding. She, on the other hand, maintained composure. She nodded politely and continued on her way, not giving him the satisfaction of a confrontation, yet leaving a lasting impression. In the days that followed, fate continued to weave their lives together. She took on additional work, showing resilience and determination in every task she completed. Meanwhile, the man faced challenges in his business. Deals became complicated, schedules tightened, and problems arose that required careful attention and skilled assistance. In an unexpected twist, he found himself in need of someone with practical knowledge, insight, and an ability to act quickly and efficiently. It was then that the girl, by coincidence or design of fate, became involved. Her experience from years of labor and observation gave her a unique perspective. She offered solutions quietly, without drawing attention to herself, yet her ideas proved effective. People began to notice her competence, and the man could no longer ignore her value. He realized that she was more capable than he had ever imagined, and that her insights could help him navigate the challenges he faced. As he interacted with her more, he started to see past the arrogance and pride that had defined his life. He observed her patience, her strength under pressure, and the calmness with which she approached difficult situations. He was confronted with a truth he had never considered. Someone from a humble background could possess knowledge, wisdom, and strength that even he, with all his wealth, had overlooked. The girl, aware of his growing recognition, remained cautious. She did not trust his sudden attention or assume that he had changed. She knew that arrogance often masked insecurity, and that true character revealed itself over time. She continued to act with professionalism, kindness, and dignity. Aware that any mistake could be exploited or misinterpreted, one afternoon, as she helped organize documents for an important meeting, a sudden error in the data threatened to derail a major project. She noticed it immediately, corrected it efficiently, and presented a solution that resolved the issue. The man watched in astonishment. He had not expected her to notice something so critical, let alone handle it with such skill. Respect, a feeling foreign to him in the context of this girl, began to form. He realized that the street encounter had been his first mistake, and that underestimating her was a misjudgment he could not afford to repeat. By evening, both were left with thoughts they had not anticipated. The girl reflected on the unexpected turns in life. She realized that opportunity could come from the most unlikely places, and that strength and dignity often opened doors that arrogance could not. The man, meanwhile, faced a growing sense of humility. He could not deny her capability or the impact she had on the outcome of his work. For the first time, he began to understand that wealth alone did not define a person's value. Their paths, once crossed by chance and marked by conflict, were now intertwined by necessity and recognition. The girl remained grounded, aware of the social gap, but confident in her abilities. The man, humbled yet intrigued, faced a new reality. Someone he had once dismissed could now influence his life in ways he had never anticipated. Neither knew what the future held, but the foundations of change were being laid, silently and steadily. As night fell, the girl returned home, exhausted but quietly proud. She had navigated challenges, helped others, and maintained her integrity. She understood that life's tests were continuous, and that resilience was her most powerful tool. Meanwhile, the man sat in his office reflecting on the day's events, feeling a mix of admiration, confusion, and an unfamiliar sense of respect. The arrogance that had once defined him was challenged, and he realized that true understanding came not from wealth or power, but from recognizing the strength in others. Unbeknownst to both, this was only the beginning. Their lives, seemingly separated by society, circumstance, and status, were converging. Every choice, every action, and every display of character was setting the stage for moments neither could predict. The girl's resilience and skill were shaping her future, while the man's encounter with her was slowly dismantling the walls of pride and arrogance that had kept him isolated. The collision of these two worlds, once filled with misunderstanding and disdain, now held the potential for transformation, lessons, and a twist that neither could foresee. The days grew more complicated, and yet the girl continued with her quiet determination. Each morning she woke early, carrying out her tasks with precision and care. Her family remained her anchor, their smiles and words of encouragement providing her the strength to endure long hours and physical exhaustion. Though her life was filled with hardships, she had learned to navigate them with patience and quiet resilience. She did not seek attention or reward for her efforts. Her satisfaction came from the knowledge that she was doing what was right and necessary. The man, on the other hand, was grappling with feelings that were new to him. His encounters with the girl had disrupted his usual sense of control and superiority. For the first time, he felt a pang of humility, a recognition that someone he had dismissed as insignificant possessed skills, intelligence, and insight that he lacked. He tried to rationalize his feelings, reminding himself of his wealth, his influence, and his position in society. Yet the more he observed her actions, the more he was forced to acknowledge a truth he had long ignored: merit and character were not measured by money or status. One afternoon, a problem arose at a critical project the man was overseeing. A complex issue threatened to derail weeks of planning, and he found himself at a loss. In desperation, he remembered the girl's unexpected competence and insight during their previous encounter. Reluctantly, he reached out to her for help, framing it as a request for practical advice. She listened carefully, analyzed the situation, and offered a solution that was both simple and effective. Her approach was methodical, grounded in common sense and experience, and it worked seamlessly. The man could not hide his astonishment. He had underestimated her once, and now he realized that his error had been profound. As the day progressed, he began to pay closer attention to her. He noticed details he had missed before: the careful way she handled tasks, her thoughtful consideration of each step, her ability to anticipate problems before they occurred. He saw that her intelligence was not flamboyant or showy, but quiet and reliable, built from years of observing the world and adapting to challenges. The realization unsettled him. He had always equated power with control and intelligence with education. Yet here was a girl who defied his assumptions in every way. The girl, meanwhile, remained cautious. She had experienced arrogance, cruelty, and dismissal from people like him before. She understood that admiration or sudden attention could be fleeting, motivated by self-interest rather than genuine respect. She chose to maintain her dignity, offering help where it was needed, but never overextending herself. She was aware that trust was earned. She had no intention of giving it lightly to someone who had once belittled her in the days that followed. The man sought her advice more frequently. Each time he discovered more about her capabilities, her judgment, and her unwavering focus. He began to realize that the girl was not only skilled, but wise beyond her years. Her decisions were thoughtful, her judgment sound, and her understanding of human behavior keen. He could see how her past struggles had shaped her into someone resilient and insightful, someone capable of navigating challenges with calm determination. The girl's story slowly began to unfold in subtle ways. Through conversations and observations, he learned that she had faced hardships from a young age. She had been responsible for her family's survival, balancing work, school, and household duties with a maturity that few could match. Her perseverance, patience, and moral strength were products of necessity and choice. Forged in the quiet moments of struggle rather than in public recognition, the more he learned, the more he understood the depth of her character, and the more humbled he felt. Despite his growing respect, he remained aware of his past behavior. He remembered the words he had spoken in anger, the public humiliation he had inflicted, and the arrogance that had defined him. Guilt began to take root, a discomfort he was unaccustomed to feeling. For the first time, he contemplated the consequences of his actions on someone else's life. Realizing that his power had often been wielded carelessly, the girl's resilience forced him to confront his own shortcomings and question the life he had been leading. One afternoon, they worked together on an urgent task that required careful coordination and precise execution. The girl guided the process, explaining her reasoning clearly and patiently. The man observed, listened, and followed her instructions. Realizing that her approach was more effective than any method he had previously employed, the success of the task left him impressed, not just with her skills, but with her character. She handled the pressure with composure, never seeking praise, and focused solely on achieving the desired outcome. Her humility and professionalism contrasted sharply with his own previous behavior, highlighting the difference between arrogance and quiet competence. As their collaboration continued, he found himself reflecting on her journey. He thought about the struggles she had endured, responsibilities she had shouldered, and the strength she had cultivated in the face of adversity. He realized that her experiences had given her insights and abilities that were invaluable, that his earlier judgment of her had been both shallow and unjust. The awareness of his mistake weighed heavily on him, challenging his self-perception and forcing him to reconsider his assumptions about people and their worth. The girl, fully aware of the man's changing attitude, remained measured in her response. She did not seek recognition or approval, but she acknowledged the subtle shift in his behavior. She noticed moments of hesitation, glimpses of humility, and rare instances of genuine respect. These observations reinforced her understanding that character revealed itself over time, through actions and consistency rather than words or appearances. She continued to act with integrity, patience, and quiet confidence. Allowing her actions to speak for themselves, evenings became moments of reflection for both of them. The girl contemplated the unexpected ways in which life was unfolding. Recognizing that opportunity often arrived disguised as challenge or coincidence, she remained focused on her personal growth, her responsibilities, and her principles. Understanding that resilience and integrity were her greatest assets, the man, in contrast, spent time grappling with new feelings, humility, admiration, and the recognition of his own flaws. He began to understand that wealth and status were not the sole measures of value, and that the girl's quiet strength held lessons he had never considered through shared experiences, mutual observation, and gradual understanding. The dynamics between them began to shift. The girl's competence and dignity left a lasting impression, while the man's awareness of his past arrogance brought a growing sense of responsibility and self-reflection. Their interactions, once marked by conflict and misunderstanding, were evolving into something more complex and significant, laying the groundwork for a profound transformation in both their lives. By the end of Part 4, the foundations of change were firmly established. The girl's strength, intelligence, and resilience had become undeniable, forcing the man to confront his arrogance and reassess his values. At the same time, she maintained her dignity and independence, aware that trust and respect must be earned. The stage was set for the final moments of reckoning, the twist that would reveal not only the truth about her character, but also the lessons he would carry forward, forever changed by the quiet power of someone he had once underestimated. The city had a quiet stillness that evening, as if holding its breath for what was to come. The girl finished her daily tasks, her body weary but her spirit unbroken. She moved through the streets with calm determination, aware that her life had been a series of challenges that had shaped her into the person she was today. She had endured humiliation, hardship, and misunderstanding, yet she had never let them define her. Her heart remained strong and her mind sharp, capable of navigating even the most unexpected turns. Meanwhile, the man sat in his office, reflecting on the events of the past weeks. His encounters with the girl had unsettled him in ways he had not anticipated. He was used to commanding respect and having control. Yet here was someone who challenged his assumptions, not with confrontation or arrogance, but through quiet competence, resilience, and unwavering integrity. He found himself thinking about her frequently, realizing that he had been blind to the value of people who did not fit into his narrow view of success. The turning point came one afternoon when a crisis struck at his company. A major project was at risk due to a sudden complication, and the man had exhausted his usual resources. In desperation, he turned to the girl for assistance. She approached the problem with calm efficiency, analyzing the situation and offering practical solutions. Her insights were clear, precise, and effective, and they resolved the crisis in a way that no one else could have anticipated. The man watched her work, a mix of admiration and humility growing within him. He understood finally that her abilities were exceptional, and that his earlier judgments had been both unfair and short-sighted. As the days passed, their interactions continued to evolve. The girl remained cautious, aware of the man's past arrogance, yet she recognized the subtle changes in his behavior. He was no longer dismissive or condescending. He listened, observed, and learned from her. Respect replaced arrogance, and a quiet acknowledgement of her worth began to grow. The man's own transformation was gradual but undeniable. He had begun to understand that power and wealth were not the ultimate measures of value, and that true strength often came in forms he had overlooked. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the man approached her with a sense of sincerity he had never displayed before. He spoke without the sharpness or condescension that had marked their first encounter. Instead, his voice carried humility, a recognition of his past mistakes, and a desire to make amends. He acknowledged the hurt he had caused, the arrogance he had displayed, and the lessons he had learned from observing her strength and integrity. The girl listened quietly, her expression composed, aware that his words were genuine, yet mindful that true change was proven through actions, not words. In the following days, he continued to demonstrate his transformed behavior. He treated her with respect, sought her advice, and acknowledged her contributions openly. People around them began to notice the shift. Recognizing the impact she had on him and the way their collaboration had led to tangible success, the girl, in turn, maintained her professionalism and dignity, allowing her actions to speak louder than any words. She did not seek recognition or reward, but she understood the significance of the influence. She now held the twist came when an unexpected opportunity arose for the girl. A local organization, impressed by her skills, integrity, and resilience, offered her a position that would provide stability, growth, and recognition for her efforts. It was an opportunity she had long dreamed of, but had never expected to receive. The man witnessing this realized that his initial arrogance had blinded him to her true potential and that he had learned valuable lessons from someone he once dismissed. He supported her advancement not out of obligation or guilt, but because he recognized her merit and the justice of her success. Their relationship, once marked by conflict and misunderstanding, had transformed into one of mutual respect and acknowledgement. The man had been humbled by the girl's strength, and the girl had maintained her dignity, demonstrating that resilience and integrity could shape not only her own future, but also influence the perspectives of those around her. The city, bustling and indifferent, had witnessed their journey quietly, unaware of the profound changes taking place in the lives of these two individuals. In the quiet moments of reflection, both understood the lessons they had learned. The girl knew that her perseverance, patience, and commitment to doing what was right had brought her to this point. The man understood that humility, respect, and the ability to recognize true value in others were qualities far more important than wealth or status. They had both been transformed by the unexpected collision of their lives, each learning from the other in ways that would stay with them forever. The final day of their story unfolded with calm dignity. The girl accepted the new opportunity, prepared to embrace a future she had earned through years of hard work. The man, standing beside her, felt a sense of gratitude and respect that was new and profound. He had been humbled, taught, and inspired by someone he had once overlooked. The encounter that had begun with arrogance and humiliation had ended with recognition, growth, and the quiet triumph of resilience over pride. As they parted ways that evening, there were no dramatic declarations, no public show of victory or apology. Instead, there was a mutual understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had shared and the lessons learned. The girl walked forward, confident in her abilities and proud of her accomplishments, while the man remained reflective, carrying the knowledge that true value is often hidden in plain sight and that humility and respect are the keys to understanding and growth. In the end, the twist that no one saw coming was not revenge, not punishment, nor romantic resolution. It was the revelation of true character, the triumph of integrity and resilience, and the quiet transformation of someone who had once been blinded by arrogance. The girl's strength had changed her own life and reshaped the perspective of a man who had thought himself above all others. Their story ended not with spectacle, but with profound human lessons about the power of dignity, respect, and the unseen impact of courage and perseverance. It was a story that would linger quietly, a testament to the idea that true strength often emerges from the most unexpected places. After the events that had changed both their lives, the girl continued her journey with a renewed sense of purpose. She had proven to herself that resilience, patience, and dignity could overcome even the harshest circumstances. Every day she woke up with the determination to do her best, not for recognition or reward, but because she understood the value of hard work and the quiet power of integrity. Her family noticed the subtle changes in her. She moved with a confidence that had not been there before, though it was never arrogant or boastful. She carried herself with grace, balancing her responsibilities at home with her professional duties and the new opportunities that had opened up for her. Life was still challenging, but she faced it with a calm determination and a sense of hope that had grown steadily over the weeks. Meanwhile, the man continued to reflect on the lessons he had learned. The encounters with the girl had forced him to confront his arrogance, to recognize the impact of his words and actions, and to reconsider the way he treated others. He had begun to see that wealth and power alone did not define a person's worth, and that humility, respect, and the ability to learn from those around him were far more important qualities. His life, previously defined by control and dominance, was slowly transforming into one where understanding and empathy mattered. One day, the girl faced a new challenge that tested her in ways she had not expected. A situation arose at her workplace that required her to make difficult decisions under pressure. She remained calm, analyzed the circumstances carefully, and took decisive action. Her choices were guided not by fear or haste, but by experience, intelligence, and a strong sense of responsibility. She succeeded, not with luck, but with skill, judgment, and the quiet confidence that had been growing within her since her earliest struggles. The man, observing from a distance, felt a mix of admiration and humility. He could see clearly the difference between someone who had been shaped by genuine experience and struggle and someone who relied solely on wealth and status. He recognized that her ability to navigate challenges, maintain integrity, and inspire respect in those around her was a rare and valuable quality. For the first time, he understood that true influence came from character and wisdom, not money or power. Life continued to present challenges, yet the girl handled each with determination and patience. She encountered people who doubted her, obstacles that tested her resolve, and situations that required careful judgment. She did not allow setbacks to shake her focus. Instead, she approached each problem with clarity and composure. Her reputation for reliability, intelligence, and strength grew steadily, earning her the respect and trust of those around her. The man, on his part, sought to understand the world through a lens he had rarely used before. He began to pay attention to the lives of people he had previously ignored. Observing their efforts, struggles, and triumphs, he realized that his wealth had insulated him from understanding the depth of human resilience and that he had much to learn from those. whose lives were shaped by necessity rather than privilege. Each encounter reminded him of the lessons he had learned from the girl, reinforcing the importance of humility, empathy, and recognition of true merit. In her personal life, the girl found moments of quiet joy. She spent time with her family, celebrated small achievements, and allowed herself brief periods of reflection and relaxation. She understood that happiness was not always found in grand gestures, but often in simple moments of connection, accomplishment, and peace. These experiences reinforced her strength, giving her the energy to face the challenges that lay ahead. The man, increasingly aware of his past mistakes, made conscious efforts to change his approach. He treated colleagues and employees with respect, listened carefully to advice, and acknowledged the contributions of those around him. The lessons he had learned from the girl had become guiding principles in his life, influencing his decisions, relationships, and understanding of human value. He was no longer defined solely by his wealth or authority, but by his willingness to learn, adapt, and recognize the worth of others. One day, a situation arose that tested the girl's integrity and decision-making on a larger scale. A complex project threatened to fail due to miscommunication and errors from multiple sources. She stepped in calmly, coordinated the efforts of everyone involved, and resolved the issues with efficiency and fairness. Her actions not only saved the project, but also earned her the trust and admiration of everyone she worked with. It was a clear demonstration that her skills, judgment, and integrity were as formidable as anyone could possess, regardless of social status. The man observed this with a mixture of pride and reflection. He saw the culmination of her experiences, the strength born from years of struggle, and the wisdom that had guided her through countless challenges. He understood that her achievements were the result of character and resilience, qualities he had long underestimated in others. He felt a deep respect and acknowledgement of the lessons she had imparted through her actions, realizing that her influence had reshaped his understanding of value, merit, and human strength. Through these experiences, both the girl and the man learned that life's challenges often revealed the true nature of people. Arrogance could be dismantled by humility, and respect could be earned through consistency, integrity, and the quiet demonstration of capability. They saw that opportunity could arrive unexpectedly, that recognition was often earned through perseverance, and that true power lay in understanding, compassion, and the ability to rise above prejudice and assumptions. As time went on, the girl continued to grow in confidence, skill, and independence. Her reputation spread, not for wealth or status, but for reliability, intelligence, and moral strength. She inspired others through her actions, showing that dignity, perseverance, thoughtful decision-making could overcome even the harshest circumstances. The man, changed by the lessons he had learned, continued to approach life with humility and respect, understanding that wealth alone could never replace character, insight, and the acknowledgement of true value. Their paths, once defined by misunderstanding and conflict, had become intertwined through shared experiences, mutual recognition, and the quiet impact of character and competence. The girl's journey demonstrated the power of resilience, patience, and integrity, while the man's transformation highlighted the importance of humility, learning, and acknowledgement of others' worth. Together, their story illustrated that life's challenges, when faced with strength and dignity, could lead to profound lessons and unexpected growth. In the quiet moments of reflection, both recognized the changes within themselves and the world around them. The girl understood that her perseverance and integrity had opened doors and created opportunities, while the man acknowledged that humility, respect, and recognition of true merit were the keys to understanding and success. The twist of their shared journey was not dramatic or sensational, but subtle and deeply meaningful. Rooted in the transformation of character, perception, and the recognition of true human value. By the end of Part 6, the story had come full circle. The girl had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident, while the man had learned lessons of humility, empathy, and respect that would guide him in all aspects of life. Their experiences, though shaped by hardship, misunderstanding, and unexpected encounters, had led to growth, recognition, and the profound realization that character and resilience were more powerful than wealth, arrogance, or status. Life, with all its challenges and surprises, had revealed the quiet strength and enduring value of integrity, perseverance, and the capacity to learn and change.